Welcome to Spiritual Dialogues with Father Odon de Castro. We are here at Cariana Lay Monastic Community. I'm your host, Brother Lodi, and with us is Sister Tachi.
Yes, we're holding our breath. You said something very mind-opening in the last episode, Father. What was that?
Well, that's true. As we had mentioned, the fact that the confusion today, this very day, that is now besetting the Catholic Church is the question that has been raised. So, who is the true Pope? Because doubts had been raised on the validity of the election of Pope Francis and many other reasons as we have dealt with in the last program that we had. So we are now at the point where we are faced with a Pope, Pope Francis, whose election seems to be invalid, and therefore there is doubt raised according to the validity of his papacy. And there is also question raised to the validity of the resignation of Pope Benedict. Mm-hmm. So there are doubts now on both sides. Mm-hmm. But if you see, we have to settle the issue because we cannot point now properly who is a true Pope, because doubts have been placed on both sides. And like I told you, just take for example, if for example Pope Benedict is the true Pope, and we consider Francis as the Pope, we are guilty of schism, and that's a mortal sin. Because we are following a Pope who is not supposed to be the Pope.
Mm-hmm. It's disuniting the community, separating one from the other.
We're not separating, but you are the one, you who believe that Pope Francis is the Pope, are putting yourself or cutting yourself away from the true church. Mm-hmm. You have become a schismatic because you're following the false Pope. Mm-hmm. Now, this is a very serious situation because most of the bishops, most of the cardinals believe that Pope Francis is the Pope. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we're hoping they're right. But with all the objections raised, what if that is wrong? What if he is not the true Pope because there was something wrong with the papal election, as presented by Monsignor Bucks? All of those believing and following Pope Francis as Pope are in schism, are in the state of mortal sin. Mm-hmm. And that means majority of the Catholic world. Mm-hmm. Majority. Because majority believe that Pope Francis is the Pope. Mm-hmm. Now, we are not saying who is a true Pope yet. We're just putting the arguments on the proper places yet.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Father.
And we said that first, here is Pope Francis and their arguments doubting his papacy, and we mentioned the fact from Cardinal Arinze up to Bigano and up to Monsignor Bucks, their objections are reasonable. It has to be taken seriously because they are reasonable. They are philosophically and logically sound. It cannot be set aside. It has to be considered seriously. But as we mentioned, these arguments proving that Pope Francis is not the Pope are just human knowledge, human philosophy, human arguments. And as you mentioned, Brother Lodi, they can make a mistake.
What I understand, Father, is that putting someone as leader is supposedly with the consent of the Holy Spirit, the Divine Spirit, that therefore, the man would not make a mistake because he is somewhat appointed by the Divine Spirit.
Well, we are not sure whether the Holy Spirit
was there in the first place.
Because it has happened before.
Many 40 times, did you say?
Yeah. So we went to the other argument. The argument was showing the fact that the resignation of Pope Benedict was invalid.
Can you explain, Father, why was it invalid,
Yeah.
the resignation?
Because Pope Benedict wrote his resignation in Latin.
Okay.
When he wrote his letter of resignation in Latin, that was an era where nobody understood Latin anymore.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So nobody really could prove that he resigned because they did not understand his letter of resignation because it was in Latin. So everybody just received the news that he resigned, that's all. Nobody really analyzed his letter of resignation.
The reason why he resigned.
No, whatever was written there.
Yeah, whatever was, they did not know what was written there.
So have they looked at it again?
Well, because there are still some old people who,
Okay. Who understand?
who understand Latin, and so they
Yeah.
studied it and so on, and they found out that he was not resigning.
What was his?
That there was no element really in which Pope Benedict was proving that he was resigning.
It was only the conclusion of the papers and people that he was resigning.
Well, because Pope Benedict said it probably in Italian, or in English, that he was resigning, like that and so on.
But the formal letter of resignation
Yeah,
was not might not have been a letter of resignation.
yeah. Because afterwards, after the resignation, he gave the letter in Latin, and nobody understood it, and nobody studied it.
Okay. And now?
But still, let's say that really he was not resigning in that letter of resignation. Still, it doesn't mean that he's a true pope. That is no proof.
Okay.
Because in the Catholic Church, that is not the proof that you're the pope. Just as the being elected or chosen
The
by the conclave makes you a pope.
Yes. Okay.
Those are not Catholic proofs. That's not the basic Catholic proof. So what is the basic proof that the person is the Pope? Well, let's go back to the history of the Catholic Church. In the history of the Catholic Church, there were incidents where there were 3 popes. Now, the rule is, if there is a true pope among them, that true pope would have faith, the
Yes.
theological virtue of faith. If the other 2 popes have also faith,
Okay.
they would know that they are not a pope
Okay.
because they
In
have faith.
other words, if I had
Yeah.
faith, I would know I am not the Pope.
Exactly.
But I'm not going to tell you.
The-
That's what's going to happen.
something that's very clear.
Okay, Father.
So the secret there is to have faith, because we keep on saying
Yes.
that to confess that this person is the true pope is an act of faith
On our part.
on our part.
On his part, he has to also. But he doesn't have to. If he
Yeah,
doesn't.
but we're not
Okay,
yet there.
okay,
We're not
okay,
yet
okay,
there,
Father.
no?
Okay.
Not to make the confusion
Okay.
worse.
sorry. Okay.
So to detect the true pope, you have to have faith.
For us to detect.
Yeah, to
Okay.
detect. For you to detect.
Yeah, for me.
That's why it's a big problem. Because people
I don't-
today don't have faith.
Yes, I would. Yeah.
Bishops don't have faith. As Cardinal Ratzinger said, not me, it's Cardinal Ratzinger in his famous book, Ratzinger Report, says that most priests, most bishops do not have faith.
Okay.
And many are saying today they have no faith. So they really cannot recognize who is a true pope because they have no faith.
Yes. So
if there were 3 popes and one of them have faith,
okay.
that one who has faith would know he's the pope. And he would know if the other also have faith or not.
Yes, if he's a man of faith, he would know if he had and the other. Okay.
Yeah.
Clear. So
So the 3 of them have faith.
or so they say. Are you sure?
Yeah, they have faith.
Okay.
That's why if the 3 of them have faith, one of them who is the true pope would know who is the pope.
Okay.
And the other two who have faith will know that they are
They're
not the Pope.
Okay, yes, clear. Okay.
A very good example of this is Saint Hippolytus
Okay.
and Saint Poncian.
Yes, I remember you mentioned that.
These two are popes.
At the same time.
You have Poncian, who is the true pope, and Hippolytus, who was the anti-pope.
At the same, of course, they were at the same time.
At the
Clear,
same
that's
time.
clear, yes.
But Saint Hippolytus had faith.
Okay.
So he knew he was not the true pope. He knew it was Poncian. So he withdrew from the papacy and told people, no, I'm not the pope. And he recognized Poncian as a true pope. And both of them were martyrs.
And saints.
And both of them are saints.
Okay, that's clear.
That's
At least
very
there's an
clear.
example. Of,
Yeah.
Okay, now let's go to that.
Now, if there are two popes
Now, for example.
and one has faith, he would know he's the pope.
Yes.
He would also know if he's not the pope
Yes.
because he has faith.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The problem is if the other one does not have faith
Okay.
and he was elected, so he would think
He was.
he is
Yeah.
the pope.
Yes. And he,
And that's a big problem.
yes. Because he'll fight for that.
But you're right. The person who has faith and who thinks he is the Pope will never show it to anybody.
No. What?
He will never mention it. He will never proclaim it.
He's not out with a plan of faith. He's not out to fight the other one just to prove that I am the one.
No, he would not.
Yeah, he will not do that, right?
Poncian never did it
Diba?
against
Because that's
Hippolytus.
a saint. A saint
Yeah.
is like that. Will not do that.
And the true Pope will never pronounce it. He will never go around with the
Say,
placard
yeah,
saying,
saying I'm the one.
Pope."
Yes.
In fact, if you're going around proclaiming you're the Pope,
Well, you're not the one.
there's something wrong.
Well, let's go back to Hippolytus' point. The true pope was Poncian, and he never said that. But Hippolytus, who
Never.
knew, said he's the one.
Yeah, he never said.
So it was the other one
Never
who said that he
proclaimed.
was the one. It was the Hippolytus who said Poncian is the one, not me.
Yeah.
And the other one
And
did
he
the same.
said, Hippolytus said, I'm not the Pope.
He's
It's
the one.
Poncian.
Okay.
And he submitted himself to
Poncian.
Poncian.
And Poncian never said yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Just accepted it. Okay. So now.
So if there are two popes and one has faith, and he knows he is the Pope, he will not proclaim it.
yeah,
why?
that's humility. Maybe.
Because he knows very well that all Catholics who have faith
Will know.
would recognize him as the Pope.
Yes. Yes. He doesn't have to say anything.
And the Catholics who have no faith will not recognize him, but he wouldn't care because he's not the Pope of those
Of those non-Catholics.
non-Catholics
Yes,
who have
yes.
no faith.
Oh boy, that's
In other words.
that's sad. For that's sad for the others.
So our
Oh, yes,
problem is,
yes.
do we have the faith to recognize the true Pope between these two?
Yes, yes. Wow.
Do
That's
we
the
have
problem.
that kind of faith, Father?
That is a problem.
Now, if you choose the right one, you have.
Can you explain the right kind of faith that we must have so that we will know who is the true Pope or not?
Yeah, that's going to be a very
No,
long
no.
story. Yeah. But to have the true faith, the fathers of the church has written so much about these topics, St. Augustine has a very long treatise on faith, hope, and charity. St. Thomas of Aquinas expanded the knowledge of faith, hope, and charity. We have all the writings of the saints on what is faith. This is treasured by the Catholic Church. We have no reason to be ignorant.
Yes.
If we're ignorant, then St. Thomas of Aquinas says our ignorance is willful,
Yeah.
and that is a very serious sin.
So you have
Father,
to.
we have only 1 minute.
So there is our question now. Our question is if one of them, we have two popes now,
Yes, Father.
the claim is now it's either between Pope Benedict or Pope Francis. We are not saying who is a true Pope. Because for those who have faith,
You would know.
they would know who is a true Pope.